All right. I figured out, if you were watching the live stream yesterday, my paint shaker stopped working. And that sucks because this thing is like $100 on Amazon. And I really don't want to have to. Boy, my mic. I'm going to apologize ahead of time for microphone issues. I'm having all kinds of technical issues. You know, my camera lens here. The charging port on my phone is really screwed up. It's dirty or something. I'm gonna have to like take it in and have it serviced. I really just need to get that done. But I got my homemade Mountain Dew Code Red ready to go. Super bad shit for you, but I like it, and I like to have one every once in a while. I really don't drink a lot of sodas, but you guys don't care. Well, I mean, you care probably, but yeah. So, anyways, I'd like to get right into painting, but it's extremely painful for me to shake my paint. As pathetic as that is, but I'm getting my joints, my medical issues suck, having to do with my joints and everything. So yeah, shaking my own paint, my little paint bottles, it hurts, and I got to be careful. So, oops. There we go. So, anyways, I am going to attempt to have a look inside of this thing and find out why it got so loud and then eventually just like froze up on me. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just going to start taking things apart. I better get a little cup. Medicine cup is really good to like keep little screws in and shit when you're working on something like this on the fly. But you already know that. I gotta find another Phillips head, little mini Phillips head screwdriver here from my toolbox. That might be good enough. Let's see how that works. So, anyways, I've said so anyways like 100 times. Oh yeah, I have doing with this thing. I'm just gonna start taking shit apart and figure it out. There's something shaking in there, so something broke off. It's like a piece of tape or glue or something that the suction cups were stuck to. This is a really, really good paint shaker. I think I got a little under a year ago on Amazon. It was like $100. Oh, okay. Oh, well, that's a pretty big piece to break off. Okay, so it's one of the guides. It looks like it's one of the guides. Oh, look at that. That's kind of cool. I can unplug it really easily. Okay, the harnesses are different, so I'll be able to differentiate between those. Okay, and this is a broken piece of plastic. Huh. Pretty cool design. Oh, looks like the other one is actually cracked as well. In there. You can see a little crack right here. Right there. So maybe a little bead of glue or some printer resin maybe to hold on to that. Keep it from cracking anymore. Motor still looks good. Okay, I see what's happening is it's getting out of... Oh, there's another piece there. I wonder... So this thing looks like it's just going to break off. I feel like it's just a guide. Or... Yeah, that's like not even on there. But the broken piece was keeping this from moving freely. So I'm feeling like if I just get it out of the way... If I just get it out of the way... Man, that thing really broke. Oh, I see. So that actually holds that little guy in place. So it's like a bearing. It's a bearing housing is really all it is. So that bearing's got to be held up against there really strong. Be cool if I could just build a new housing for it. So it's only those two that turn. I think this thing might be shot. I mean, I appreciate the challenge it could present itself to fix the issue. But I don't know that it would be worth the trouble at this point. You can always repurpose the thing, or try to make a new housing for it. It'd be really cool if I could figure out a way to just integrate it into my workbench somehow. Huh. That's an idea. Okay. Well, I'm gonna hold on to the parts for now. And as far as getting moving on this project today, on the Matriarch here, I'm gonna just keep going and set this aside and think about it for a couple of days or a day or two or whatever it takes. We'll see what happens. I got shit to do today though with you guys, so let's get into it. I gotta grab some masking tape. That should be good. All right. So I'm gonna just start off with the leg that I got the metal parts done on and stuff yesterday. We're gonna set the rest aside for now. Uh, and the slightest little wrong movement with my microphone, and it pulls it out of the port. I really got to fix that. It's fucking annoying. Oh, I think I'm out of razor blades, X-Acto blades. Shit. Well, we're gonna have to use kind of a shitty old blade. Yeah. The kind of tricky part too is like figuring out which sections I want to paint light gray. I'm basically just trying to prevent as much overspray as I could. Because obviously I only want to paint the parts that I want to paint in the light gray. Fortunately, it's not a hell of a lot of masking to accomplish on every leg. And it's pretty quick and easy masking. It doesn't have to be super ultra precise. So I want this little panel to be light gray. Along with this piece. So I hope everybody's having an awesome day out there. Monday's been all right. But yeah, feel free to pop on into the chat and say hello. Let me know where you're from. I love to see people from all over the world here. Pretty awesome. And if you don't speak English, that's okay. Say it in your native tongue. I've got ways to translate. And if I'm not speaking in your country's native tongue in the subtitles, I'm working on that. I'm trying to figure that out. So please bear with me. YouTube hasn't really made it that easy. Either that or I'm just dumb and I can't figure it out. But they haven't made it that easy to do subtitles. Like I'm having a weird time figuring that out. I think I want this part to be like a light gray as well. So we're just going to do this one leg with the masking and see how that works. I was considering doing it in masking it off with latex, but I feel like the latex would take longer to paint it on. So I'm just masking it. Chat's a little slow today. I didn't really give a lot of announcement. I wasn't. Today was another one of those days. I just, wasn't really sure if I was going to live stream or not. I'm like, no, I'm gonna do it. I'm playing video games and going to too many appointments lately, so I'm like, I need to get my ass out of the house and go down to the studio and get some paint work done. Come on, stay on there. Why you gotta be stubborn? Okay, I'll just be careful with that spot. Be some fairly tight airbrushing on there. But let's get at it. So I'm gonna use my Evolution CR Plus for this stuff because it's a little more detailed. Feels good. Making sure my airbrush is up to speed here. Feels good. Yeah, definitely gonna probably just have to order a new paint shaker. That sucks. Put a little reducer in there. So what I'm doing is just holding the tip of the needle to back flush it a little bit. You can also take your pipette. It's really tough for me to see with this camera angle, so I'm gonna have to adjust a little bit. That should help. Why is my airbrush spitting so much? I feel like my pressure's fucky. I think the pressure gauge on my airbrush is off. That's so quiet today. Where's all my peeps at? That's all right though. This is pretty boring shit if it's not something you're really into. It's kind of a niche type of channel, that's for sure. Ooh, what is that? I don't really care for that. Thumbs down on that song. What we got today? James Barber. Hey, buddy, what's happening? So you recently got into 3D printing and you're interested in painting and decorating. You use basic PLA plastic and you're just learning, but what paints do you suggest or even airbrush? That's a great question, dude. And hey, before I get started on the answer, thanks for stopping by, dude. I really appreciate you being here, and I mean that. Like that's awesome, dude. I'm glad you stopped by and that you're asking me that question. Um, so let me turn this down a little bit. So I'm sure you've guessed with resin, the difference between. Do you know the? I should ask you that. Do how do I ask this without sounding like a dick? You know the difference between FDM printing and SLA printing, right? And a follow up question for that would be like, um, what do you ultimately plan? Okay, yes, in some sense. So FDM printing, in a nutshell, deposition. Hold on, let me get. I got a bunch of gray paint in here that I can't let sit in this airbrush, which we can talk about also in a moment. Um, I just got to clean out. You never want to let paint dry in your airbrush. It's just not good practice because it can make you have a bad day. So anytime you're going to leave your airbrush sitting for like a couple 3 minutes, maybe 5 minutes, you want to clean it out, get all that paint out of the cup, because it's gonna dry in there and it's gonna leave flakes of paint and all those can give you a bad day. Uh, I'm gonna just do a quick clean on this airbrush so I can kind of go along and illustrate what it is I'm talking about in answering your question. Um, and I'm gonna teach you a little bit on the way too, in case you don't know this stuff. So what I'm doing now is I'm just taking kind of like a wide brush, just an old trash brush, um, to get it into the cup of the airbrush and kind of like clean up all this paint that's trying to dry on the inside of the cup. You can see that in there, all up along the edges. You can even use your finger to get in there. get all the stuff that likes to cruise up along the edges. You don't want to use like a brush like this, because what'll happen is the ferrule on the brush, the metal part, can scrape the inside of the bowl of the cup, and those little scratches will collect paint, and they'll also give you a bad day. You can also use like a dry brush where the bristles are a little, a little tougher, a little stiff, and that's a really good way to like scrub the inside of the cup really good. But by using these dry brushes or these big fat wide brushes, it doesn't allow the ferrule to hit the inside of the cup. Rather, the edge of the cup is going to scratch the ferrule on your brush, and that's harmless. So, anyways, that's how that works. And you'll notice as I'm spraying the paint out of the cup, I'm moving the trigger back and forth, and that just helps work any paint come off of the needle. So, FDM printing, airbrushing, I mean, to me, it was really easy to learn. I come from the school of like, if you're really eager to learn something and um, you're feeling passionate about it, like you're inspired, you're stoked. I want to learn airbrushing. I want to learn how to do something. When you really, really, really want to learn how to do something, you're gonna be pretty stoked on getting to learn it and do it, and you're gonna gobble up that information really quickly. Whereas something you have to learn that, like fucking math class or something, something that you're not really interested in learning, but it's a required course. It's you don't feel that inspired about it. You're just not going to suck up the information the same way you do when you're really stoked on something. And so that being said, I think airbrushing is very easy to learn if you're eager to learn it. Your initial investment can be as little as like $100, $150 for like a really simple airbrush setup. And if you go with something like the airbrush setup that I have, you're looking at this airbrush here alone. This airbrush was 325 USD. And it's a little loose right now. And then I have another airbrush somewhat similar to this one and the same brand that was almost $500. And then I've got another airbrush that was like $100. And they all serve different purposes and stuff for me. Like for this one, I have a 0.28 millimeter nozzle, like middle ground. And then I have another, the other airbrush I have has a 0.4 millimeter nozzle, so it's bigger. You can do like big things. And then I have another airbrush, my real expensive one. That's not even real expensive. That's like mid-level. That one has 0.15 millimeters, so real fine line detail stuff. And yeah, so I have one airbrush for each purpose that I might need it for. Like for example, I'm doing these legs for the Matriarch here, and I needed something mid-level. It's not super high detail, but it's small enough to get in there. It's mid-level to get in there, and I can avoid lines, with some light masking. I got to clean up this spot right here and a few. But yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot to explain. But getting back to your initial question about printing, for me, at first, when I first got into 3D printing, I went with for a moment here. My microphone's being tricky. So the jack on my phone port is jacked. It's screwed up. It's dirty. There we go. It's dirty, so it's not. It's real sensitive as to um, whether or not it's going to work well. So I got into FDM printing, or that was the first thing I wanted to try out. Oops, it goes this way. And FDM printing means fixed depositional modeling. And so I got a pretty small FDM printer to start off with, and then eventually realized I wanted something bigger. So I was making dinosaur skulls. I was making like big fat skulls, um, and I wanted to go bigger. Print bigger skulls, bigger dinosaur skulls. And so FDM printing kind of presented at the time it presented what I needed to get out of a 3D printer. I didn't really need the skulls to be super realistic or anything or have really great detail because these were big and it worked. It worked great. But then I did my first. I'm really into Star Wars, and I did my first character print. I think it was Cad Bane, maybe. And the printer I had at the time was pretty good. It did a decent job, but you've really got to fuck around with your settings, depending on the printer. You're gonna really have to do a lot of work to get your first print to pop off perfectly. In some cases, I mean, FDM printers are getting better and better every day, and the detail that they can achieve is fantastic. I call this the birthday cake. This is the base that I printed in FDM for a Hellboy model, and I've been doing SLA printing for a while, which resin printing, and I mean for FDM the detail's fantastic. Like it's not bad at all. You've got some post prep work to do in here, lots of knobs and shit to pull off. My point being in that I tried to do a character though was that sorry, I get off track. I have ADD, so it's really easy for me to get sidetracked on a thought. So I apologize. Um, FDM printing. So after printing my first character, I had a buddy of mine tell me like, "Oh, dude, you should check out resin printing. You ever thought about that? You get a lot more detail out of it." And I realized that I was beginning to realize that I really wanted like really good detail without all the post prep sanding and shit that you have to do with FDM printing. There's a lot of sanding involved to get these little imperfections and inconsistencies out that you find in FDM printing. Um, Whereas SLA printing is it's quite a bit different. You get really detailed stuff out of it, and I wanted that. I wanted to do figures and models that had like really nice detail and also minimal sanding. On an SLA print, I've got these little bumps. So I guess these little bumps are really easy to sand off, is what I'm trying to say. The prep work is very minimal compared to all the sanding and filling and prep you have to do with FDM. So my point is like you really have to think about and consider what it is you want to do moving forward with FDM or SLA printing. I've found after doing this for 2 years now that printing in FDM is great for doing like plant pots or practical items. Like if you need a new utensil organizer for your kitchen, you can 3D print one if you want. If you need something that holds your paints up on a pegboard, you can all these are 3D printed, and they fit. I bought those on Amazon. I forget the name of the company. Really cool little mom and pop company. but I can also print them myself if I want. Um, but I feel like FDM printing is really good for practical things, not something that you plan on displaying like a top-notch figure or something on. You know, that you're just not going to get the same detail. Not to mention, you can't do clear items. Um, Not that I know of them. I don't think they really have like translucent or clear resin. I'm gonna kind of just put my hands over her her chest so that yeah. But you're never gonna get this kind of precise, crisp detail out of an FDM printer that you would with a resin printer. So you really have to ask yourself, what is it you want to do ultimately? I got to clean this up. What is it ultimately that you want to do? Um, and how do what is it you really want interest in painting? Um, Let me catch up with the chat here. Okay, yes, in some sense. Airbrushing easy to learn. I was looking a little something from Amazon for roughly 60 to 70 to learn with, but didn't realize it went up to them prices. Hey, Jerry. Yeah, I mean, airbrushing can be really, really expensive, and it can also be relatively inexpensive. I definitely suggest, starting off with something uh, cheap. Don't spend a lot of money. You really don't need to. You can go to Harbor Freight. Are you afraid? I should. Just for the sake of censorship or anything, just in case. I'm gonna put some tape on her nipples there. So while I'm chatting with you, I'm just gonna kind of clean this up a little bit here. Um, which, by the way, if you get into like model painting or anything like this, when it comes time to clean your figures, you can just use a nice little makeup brush, and they're soft enough to kind of get on there and clean off cobwebs, and they won't rough up your paint or anything like that. And then you can get the dust off them just by doing that, or even rinse them off. This is a good, safe way to, clean the model up. Here in my studio, which is my garage, things get really dusty, so I periodically have to take the model. The ones I haven't sold, I got to take them off the shelf and clean them up a little bit. So might as well do that. But yeah, I would say, really heavily consider with yourself where do you want to go with the hobby? Is this something that you want to print practical items? Do you want to start a company with it? Do you want to make money? There's a lot of questions you can ask yourself, and you want to answer those questions because it's going to kind of determine how much money you're going to spend getting into the hobby. Um, it's also going to, I guess I can take the tape off of her chest now. Um, it's also going to kind of point you in the right direction as far as like what kind of airbrush you're going to buy, what kind of 3D printer you're going to buy. It's going to point you in the direction of everything you're going to buy to get into the hobby, and it's like, do you want to paint stuff like this? Do you want to do your own Ahsoka Tano by SW5? Yeah, I painted this several months ago. She hasn't sold yet, but she is for sale. Shameless plug there. It's getting dusty. Sorry, girl. Sorry, Rosario. Um, but yeah, I think it's really important to before you dive into anything, kind of just try to consider what exactly you want to do with 3D printing and painting, and if doing something like this is something that you're interested in, you might consider. I shit. Now that I'm thinking about it, personality has a little bit to do with it too. My personality is that I'm the type of dude that's like go big, go home, or go home. Um, I'm basically a retired skateboarder. Everything I've done has always been like go big or go home. There's no half-assing anything. So I tend to, and of course, I do this because I can afford it. I'll spend money on a big ticket airbrush or something, not only because I can, but because I know the product. I've done my research on it, and everything I've seen tells me that, like, okay, this is the airbrush for me, or this is the 3D printer for me. I talk to friends. I look on YouTube. I see what other, I shopped around and looked at what other creators were using, and I based a lot of my purchasing decisions on what other creators were doing, um, and what they spent their money on. And yeah, just really take your time figuring out FDM or SLA printing and airbrushing and stuff. Um, I don't really particularly on purpose promote any specific airbrush. My personal favorite airbrush are made by Harder and Steenbeck. Um, they're kind of a mid-range German company that is now owned by Iwata. Iwata is also another really good airbrush brand, and they range from really cheap, like $100 upwards of 1,000 for one of their airbrushes. This is the Juggernaut that I did. I don't know. He's so big. I don't know him. Yeah, I can. Of course, my microphone. But like that's really a decision you have to make when you're getting into this hobby. Is where do you want to take it? For me, it started off with like I said, dinosaurs, and that very quickly, within a year, that evolved into me wanting to um, 3D print figures like this, which required memberships for. I had to get a membership for Wicked. You don't have to get a membership; you can actually buy them separately. But it gets, once you start downloading files, that can get really expensive quick. Um, I found that it was cheaper for me to just get a subscription to Wicked 3D, because I knew I was going to be purchasing a lot of files from them, because they did a lot of Marvel characters and just cool comic book stuff that I really wanted to do. Um, they got it all. They got a little bit of everything there. Highly recommend them. And then that snowballs into other relationships you get with other 3D file companies. Now I have memberships to Abe 3D, Berserk, Wicked, CA 3D Studios, um, and SW 3D Studios for Star Wars shit. And there's way more. But yeah. So this is the kind of thing you can do. You're going to get this level of detail with resin printing, and not the same level of detail with FDM printing. So again, try to decide at some point. Like, I always forget how his head comes off. Try to decide at some point, like, what you want to do, where you want to go with the hobby. Do you want it to become a hobby? Is it something you're going to be passionate about? There's Juggy's head there. I can get my... That's slightly better lighting. I love how his head turned out. And then he's got a separate head. There's better lighting for you. It's like, do you want this kind of detail Like, is this what you want to get into? Is this how you want to paint things? Maybe you're going to be a better painter than I am, or other guys out there. Um, and yeah, that head goes up there. It's pretty cool. I wasn't doing YouTube at the time I painted this guy. I'm kind of sad because it would have made for some great content, um, for people getting into the hobby or wanting to learn how to paint faces and stuff like that. Um, okay, let me see what the other part of your question was. Painting and decorating, use basic PLA plus. What paints do you paints? Let's get into paints. The types of paints I suggest are whatever works for you and your budget. Um, you can use really cheap craft paint. You can use really expensive hobby paint. Um, you can go from using stuff like this, with this is Craft Smart. I bought this at where was that? Michael's. So super cheap. For airbrush paint, brush any paint. Um, I use stuff like this, which is just really dirt cheap. I think it was $36 for a whole set of these paints, and then it came with like thinner and reducers. Um, I got those on Amazon. And then if you want to get into the more expensive paint, I also like. You've got Vallejo Army Painter. Uh, there's Citadel Paints by Games Workshop, Pro Acryl. God, there's so many different hobby paints out there. Chat, Jerry, if you want to share some different brands of paints that I can't think of right now, feel free to put it in the chat there, bud. So again, it comes down to what do you want to do? What's your budget going to be like? Where if you're somebody, sorry, my microphone again. If you're someone like me, passionate, or you think you might get really passionate about this hobby, it might behoove you to. God, my microphone is being such a build. It might behoove you to, buy some better quality items, like your airbrush, your 3D printer and stuff. If you think you might be getting into, at the end of the day, I like having both printers around. I like having an FDM printer. I like having my resin printers. Because I'm able to. I've realized over the couple of years I've been doing this now, I've realized that at least with both. Okay, Jerry's answering with Vallejo, Citadel, Pro Acryl, Army Painter, Green Stuff World. Those are the common ones. I think those are really common in the hobby. There's plenty more out there to chat about as well. I don't like the way this turned out. I want to clean that up real quick. But yeah, those are Jerry's spot on. Those are the really kind of common ones in the hobby. And again, it's just going to boil down to what you want to spend money on, how much money you want to spend on it every year. I mean, my initial investment in like everything you see in my studio, which basically to me is like my initial investment. The main items. Let's just start with the main items. The airbrush, the compressor, the airbrushes, the compressor, the two resin printers, the FDM printer. I would just say the paint. If I'm going to include paint, sanding tools, and everything, I'd say a safe estimate in like my initial investment, like just for the printers and everything, probably up around like 5 grand, 5,000 USD, maybe as little as $3,000. No, I'd say closer to 5,000 because the printers were about 1,500 total, with tax. My air compressor is 200. My airbrushes, all three of them together, would be six, almost $700. And then I've probably got about, if you look at all the paint on the wall, like all the paints I own, probably close to $1,500 to $2,000 worth of paints that I have right now. And then you have to consider that you're constantly replacing paints. When I run out of a bottle of this, that's $6 right there. If I accidentally bend the needle on my airbrush, which I've done, to replace one of the needles on my airbrush, because I only use the titanium name brand, expensive needles for my airbrushes, that's a $70 fuck up. So the answer to your questions are pretty loaded. I'm aware of, and I apologize for that. But you're gonna like what happened to me sitting here at this bench. So here's a funny story. I literally had phone was being so fucky. So this is my paint bench, and originally I had this. Like, one of the things I realized early on was I needed a place to put my phone that was really easy access, because I was constantly thinking of shit that I needed to improve my workstation. Like these little these are nail polish holders for like a salon. I needed those to put, because I had all this paint fucking everywhere on my desk and I wanted things more clean. So I needed those. So I had this thing mounted on my desk right here on my bench, and I was literally on Amazon like every 5 to 5. I need makeup sponges. I need this color of Citadel paint. You constantly find something you friggin' need, and yeah, just have your phone at the ready, because you're going to be on it a lot. Amazon's your friend. And yeah, and then you realize, oh, I need makeup brushes. Like I just filled you in. Like, makeup brushes is something you're gonna need. You're gonna want them, and then you'll be on the phone buying makeup brushes. Like, you're going to be buying a whole bunch of shit you never thought in a million years you should have bought stock in. Like, constantly. So yeah, stuff just kind of builds up on you. What do I need makeup brushes for? For dry brushing, of course. What's a good thing to use for dry brushing? Cheap makeup brushes, or you can buy, more like expensive airbrush or dry brushes. These are Fumui dry brushes. Cheap isn't always better. Like, you're gonna get what you pay for. And for me, I've always realized, like, well, shit, that thing was a piece of shit. And it's like, well, that's what you get for spending $6 on an item you could have spent $30 on, that's much better quality, and it's going to accomplish what you need it to do for a longer period of time. And yeah, so just be like that. That's the best thing I could tell you is like, be ready, dude. It's a fucking rabbit hole, man. Um, Pardon my language. My channel is not for children. I do cuss. We all speak freely here. So, being that you're new to the channel, I just wanted to preface that. Jen's here. Sorry, Jen. I just looked over at the chat. I didn't even have a chance to like drop you a note and say I was live streaming. I just jumped in. I made wife came home from work for lunch and I made salads and I was gonna sit down and start playing my stupid game and then I was like, nope, I gotta go fucking paint. I gotta get off your ass, Ron, and go get on your ass with the paintbrush in front of you. And so I was just explaining to Mr. Barber, James Barber. Are you still with us, James? I should ask that. Oh, thanks, Jen. I love the fact that you just check in. It's like, see if my dumb ass is live streaming today. That's cool. Is James Barber still with us right now? Maybe James left. It's like, this guy talks too much. I don't know what the hell I want to do. He's confusing me. I wouldn't blame it. I wouldn't blame you if you did bounce, James. I hope you dropped a like before you did. No, I guess James left. That's okay. Well, I hope I answered your questions, James. Love to have you back in the channel again. Stop by anytime, brother. So what's everybody up to today? How is everyone? Who else we have in the chat? I know we got Jen and Jerry are in the chat. You guys are amazing. Thank you. Freaking love you guys. You missed the beginning of the live stream. I was able to get the paint shaker open and I'll just, it's easier if I just show you. So yeah, what was this thing, Jerry? Like $100 or something like that. So like, I opened it up and found out that there's like a bracket in here that holds the bearing down right here, and that piece like holds that in place so that the armature can freely move. You can see how it's like clicking. So I determined that basically this thing like shook itself to death. It just completely broke off the housing for the bearing. These are the pieces that I could hear knocking around in there. So I'm trying to work out in my head, like maybe I can mount this permanently to my desk back there somehow. I'm not sure how I would do it, but it, it's possible. Um, but I'm probably completely overthinking something and adding more work than I really need to. Where when I can just go on Amazon and buy a fucking another one, maybe even try something a little different this time. Yeah, it totally shook itself to death, man. Which, it's a cheap housing. Like, they really could have done that piece with fucking a metal bracket, a machined metal bracket uh, that holds it in place, something that won't allow it to shake itself to death. I'm a little disappointed in that, and I may go back to Amazon and write a review about it, just to let people know that, like, hey, after using this for 9 months, a year, however long it's been, it ended up shaking itself to death. So that might be something you want to consider when you purchase this item for $100, $90, whatever the fuck it was. Yeah, maybe they will address it, or even better, the company will contact me and say, "Hey, you want another one?" I'll tell I'll tell them I left a review on my YouTube channel about it, which isn't a bad idea. I'll uh, I'll make a long-term review on it and say, "Hey, before you buy this paint shaker on Amazon, you might want to consider that after a year it can shake itself to death." I might have even gotten lucky too. Maybe it shakes itself to death for other. I'll have to go back and look at reviews, but maybe it shakes itself to death on other people after less time. Yeah, I may not buy another one actually based on that, which is a bummer because I really did like that paint shaker. I'm sad it's dying. That thing has been a good friend to me. I would say that, like, okay, based on the way it's built, after I took it apart and examined why it stopped working, considering that it lasted X amount of time, it's a worthy paint shaker if you can afford the investment of $70, $100 or whatever the fuck it is. Do you remember, Jerry? I think it was like maybe it was 90. And that's kind of pricey. And something as simple as a paint shaker, like, I want to get years out of it. I don't want to have to replace a paint shaker every year. Like, use a metal bracket next time. Machine a matching metal bracket that the bearings fit into that won't bust in a year. It's not going to shake itself to death. Like, come on, guys. The yellow logo. Oh, okay. Well, that's what I was thinking, Jen. Like to rig it to work, but if I'm gonna rig it, I want to fix the one thing that bothers me about it. In that, um, it's very mobile. Um, the thing moves if you just the suction cups kind of work, but you have to have it on something that's really sucky for it to sucky on. And uh, I found that the best way to have it was like in my vise, in which case the vise kept it really steady and I didn't have to hold it while it was shaking paint and stuff, but it still shook my whole workbench. But that's what I would do is like um, I was, like drill a hole back there or something that houses the motor, and then um, make a bracket of some sort to hold the bearing in place and all that shit. And I'm like, that's just way more fucking work than I want to deal with. I'd rather just buy a new one and maybe even try something different. Know what I'm saying? I mean, I would love to have like a paint shaker incorporated into my, assimilated into my workstation. That would be dope. It would be super handy, but it's just more work than I want to deal with right now. I'm just kind of playing around with this light gray paneling, um, trying out different methods of painting it. See if I like the way it looks, kind of chingered up, or if I want it to be kind of pristine with the airbrushing. This panel I'll just leave like that. Um, So yeah, I'm a little sad about my paint shaker today. It is what it is, though. I'll shop around tonight and look at some other ones. All right, Jer. Take it easy, brother. Good to have you as always, man. Channel's a little boring today, anyways. It's cool, man. You ain't got a lot to kick it. Yeah, you guys have a good night, dude. Tell Jen I said hi. And then there were two. Oh, Jen, I appreciate you. I'm not bored. I mean, it's pretty boring shit if it's not something you're into like we are, but I mean, for us, it's dope, I think. I don't watch my own channel or anything, though. That'd be kind of weird. I do go over and like review stuff after I do a live stream. Like, I like to go in and like see that my microphone sounded right in case I need to turn the levels up or something. Make sure I don't have any like crazy copyright notices. Hey, what's up, dude? How you doing today, Murph? It's okay, man. My regulars are notorious for missing notifications in my channel here for some reason. Jen. Just giving you shit. Just do like Jen does, Aaron, and just blame YouTube. It's YouTube's fault. I don't know what happened. Fucking YouTube. You guys are awesome.